It's so crazy to me and interesting to me that I have all these dope cameras, these beastly cameras, the Canon R5, Canon R6, FX3, FX6, but the main camera you all have questions about is the Canon M50. It's like, y'all just don't want me to have any fun. I'm kidding. I get it. You got questions. You have M50s. You want to see how much you can get the most out of your M50. I get it. Now, for what it is, the Canon M50 is a beast, and I made sure not to sell it, okay? Just because of you, because I love y'all. I'm a man of the people. Now, we're going to do the Canon M50 series a little bit different this time because we're going to start at the basics, all right? As if you've never used a Canon M50 before, and I want to give you the most information I can so you can get the most out of this $500 camera. In this video is all about the best settings for your Canon M50. Step 1, mode settings. This first one is easy for video. All you have to do is make sure you change that mode into that video camcorder logo, and boom, there you go. You're in the video settings. Now for photos, it's gonna be a little bit more painful for some of you, okay? Because, you know, you're gonna have to go and turn that knob to that M. And I know for a lot of you that M stands for but it really stands for manual. It gives you the full manual control over your camera. You want to be able to control all of your exposure settings, all right? If you have any questions about camera basics when it comes to exposure, I will refer to you the video up here where I go through camera basics. We talk about the holy trinity that I call it, the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. Now let's talk about that aperture. For a lot of you, you want to get images with that bokeh, all right? You want to have a little background blur. So, you know, the aperture probably needs to go down to about f2.8. So that means you may need to upgrade your lens so you can get a more crispy look, a more professional look with that bokeh in the background. Because it is the Canon M50 and it is a crop sensor camera, you want to make sure your ISO is low, all right? You don't want to go too high. You don't want to go over 1,000. That is my recommendation. Try not to go over 1,000 because if you do, a lot of times you introduce a lot of noise in that image from the Canon M50. Now, when it comes to shutter speed, those are going to be different when it comes to photos and video. For photography, I recommend that you don't go under 1/100th because once you go under there, it's going to be a really slow shutter speed. That's more for long exposure photography. And if you're going to go under that shutter speed of 1/100, I recommend that you have it on the tripod with a remote so that you're not having your hands on the camera to introduce any camera shake. Because shutter speed is all about capturing motion. And if you want to make sure you really capture faster motions, I will say don't go under 1/320 so that you can actually capture those, you know, I almost knocked my microphone over. Okay, hold on. Basically, if you're shooting something like fitness and you want to capture those moments, those crispy shots, all in focus, I recommend you do not go under 1/320. We will talk about video settings when it comes to the shutter speed a little bit later in this video. But for now, let's move on to color profiles. Now, before you take one dang photo, all right, you gotta make sure you're shooting raw, okay? So make sure you go into your menu, make sure it's not on JPEG, make that change to raw, okay? Because you're gonna get the most flexibility out of your image if you're shooting it raw. Now for color profiles, all right, I'm giving you options, okay? If you don't want to do a lot of editing, I will say just go with the standard profile if you want to kind of already be edited right out of camera, okay? But if you want to get the most out of your M50, all right, the most flexibility, I highly recommend you go with the neutral profile. Now I know a lot of you will bring up Cinestyle, and I have Cinestyle on my M50, and I can show you footage between the two, between Cinestyle and the neutral profile, but I can tell you that with Cinestyle, it does introduce some noise, and as a beginner, I don't really recommend you having to mess with images that have a lot of noise in them because that's a whole other mess to deal with. So if you want the cleanest, flattest profile that you can get out of the M50, I highly recommend you stick with neutral. All right, so let me take a moment to explain this, okay? So right now, I'm shooting in neutral. All right, neutral, this is what it looks like. I'm on this Canon M50, but I wanna show you a different video, okay? I wanna show you what it looks like with Cinestyle because in the end of the day, Cinestyle just introduced a lot of noise in the blacks. I know in the last video, you just saw it looks good in the white background, but I'm letting you know when it gets to darker mood rooms and darker environments when you're trying to shoot, okay? And that happens a lot for all of us. It just introduced a lot of noise in those shadows. So this is neutral, and then let's switch to Cinestyle. And this is Cinestyle. As you can see, it is same exposure. I made sure it's properly exposed. I want to make sure it's a little bit overexposed so we have a little bit more latitude in the shadows with Cinestyle, as if you're shooting log, but not all the way log, like almost like HLG. But again, It's a lot of noise in those blacks, and that's the reason why I personally don't use Cinestyle. Now I'm gonna switch back because I hate the way it looks. Also wanted to say is that in this video, you've seen me in this polo, you see the logo. You've also seen me in a Henley, all right, that was more of a beige color, and you've also seen me in the long sleeve split hem in the Talking Head video. And I'm just letting you know that this video is sponsored by my friends over at Cuts Clothing, all right? So Cuts Clothing has some of the best, ain't no some of, the best shirts you can find on the market. They have the best material of these shirts, hoodies, and also polos like this. They also have shorts. They've introduced their women's line, and I have a lot of those. You will see those in another video, all right? Yeah, don't get it too ahead of yourself. But I would also like to add that next month, all right, in the month of August is their 6th birthday. So you may wanna keep your mind open to trying some cuts next month, because there's gonna be a lot of deals, there's gonna be a lot of specials, and it's your time to give it a try. But you can use that link down below all month long. Next month, the month of August, you're gonna wanna hit that link, okay? You're gonna get some deals using that link all over the entire Cuts store. So please go and give it a try. Go and hit that link down below and join the team. Join us. You're gonna love it, I promise, all right? So thank you, Cuts, for not only sponsoring my closet, but also sponsoring this video. So now when you choose neutral as your color profile, I want you to go into your picture profile, and I want you to make these changes. Make sure that your sharpness is all the way down, all right? Make sure that your saturation is all the way down. Make sure your contrast is all the way down. For color tone, leave that in the middle. You do not need to make any changes to color tone. You'll get a pretty good flat image coming from your M50. Also, these color settings both apply to photo and video. Now, speaking of video, okay, so to get the best settings out of your video footage for your Canon M50, let's talk about your exposure settings. This part applies to not only the M50, but this is for any camera, okay? So when you upgrade from your M50 to a full frame camera or any camera, cinema camera, this rule applies. You wanna make sure you're using the 180 rule, the 180-degree rule, okay? I'm gonna break that down for you, just simple math. The 180-degree rule is all about making sure your frame rate matches the correct shutter speed that you need to get the best motion blur, like so it can look like natural movements. I'm gonna have some footage to show you what bad motion blur looks like. But if it's shooting 24 frames per second, you wanna use the number 2 as your multiplier. So 24 frames per second times 2, that is 48. So that will be 1/48 for your shutter speed. So the thing about DSLR, the mirrorless cameras, they can't do 148. They can only do 150. So at 24 frames per second, again, 24 times 2 is 48. The closest thing you can get to is 150. Go with 150, okay? Now for 60 frames per second, okay, you have that 60. You multiply that by 2. That'll be 120. The closest thing you can get to 120 in these cameras is 125. So you'll use 1/125 as your shutter speed. Again, make sure you're using 2 as your multiplier on your frame rate. Get it as close as you can in that shutter speed, okay? I know it's very confusing, but I'm gonna have some images on the screen so you can actually see what I mean, because I know it's very complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's gonna be just like that. It's gonna be a mindless, instinctive thing that you just know how to do. The main thing I want you to take from this video after you get these settings right is go and practice. Go and put them into practice so you can see how it all works, so you can get an understanding of you can put all these settings together in your home and in your studio, but you gotta get out there and get into action, okay? You gotta go out and do some things, okay? Get your reps in. I said this before in another video of mine, go and get your reps, go and get your practice in. So go out there, get started, take these settings and go and see what you can create and get the most out of your M50. Either way, I hope this video has been helpful. Hit me down below for the comments. Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves too if you have any questions about your Canon M50 and getting the best settings out of it. But thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe to your boy, as I always appreciate that, and I will see you all in the next video. I love y'all.